Hi, everyone. Welcome to day two on our second session here of our Astro Live Partner Showcase. I'm Heather, the president of the board here at Astro, and we're excited to have Superhog here to do a demo with us. And Hannah is on deck, ready to present. Thanks again for your partnership. I'm personally really excited to learn more about Superhog. So with that, I'm going to give you the stage. I'll go on mute and turn my camera off, Hannah, and hand it over to you.
Thanks so much, Heather. Firstly, it's great to be here. Lovely to be invited on. I should say I'm going to say good morning to everybody, but it's actually good evening here in the UK. So yeah, let's talk you through a bit about Superhog and the background. So Superhog is roughly about sort of 18 months old, but the company that sits behind it is Guardhog Technologies, and we've been within the space for about 5 years. So primarily putting just insurance in place in the UK, and we've learned a lot in that time about damages and the industry and who's accountable in the space for it. So yeah, Superhog's our product that we launched about 18 months ago, and it's very different from a conventional insurance product. I'll just talk about myself quickly and my background here. So I have worked in insurance for basically my whole life since I've come out of college, which might sound very boring to everybody. I've worked in sort of motor insurance, home insurance, and I came on board about 2 years ago, and I've been working mostly on the B2B side, but I have worked with direct hosts as well. So I'm talking to property managers all day, probably every day on Zoom, as most people probably are at the moment, with everything that's going on in the world. But yeah, that's a little bit of background information on me. So yeah, let's talk about Superhog. So we realised that with our historical data that we've had in the last 5 years in the UK, that trust is a really big problem within our industry. Hosts are worried about guests causing damage. Guests are equally worried about turning up to a property and it not being what it says it is. And we realised that our insurance product that we've got is not the only thing that we need to think about in this industry. It's actually about making people accountable for their actions within the space. So that's why we created Superhog. Superhog, the first part of it is actually a risk management tool. So we look at the guest and we ask them to do a verification check after they've booked. And the reason that we do that is because we want to check who that guest is before they check into a property. We feel that we know more about them, and that leads to less damage. And that check that Superhog asks them to do is it asks them to register like they would on a normal website. So fill in their address details, date of birth, and then we will ask them to complete a biometric check. So this biometric check is asking them to do a live selfie and upload a copy of their photo ID. So what that's doing behind the scenes is a proper check on who they are, not just you asking them for a copy of their driving license to hold on your computer. It's actually doing that proper check to check that person is who they say they are. It checks against the name on the booking, and we also do a few background checks in regards to the email address that they provide, and also we check things to do with burner phones. So that's the bit that we do prior to them checking in, and we feel that by doing that we know more about the guest. Once the guest is verified and we've given them our green tick of approval, we are happy to put our protection in place. So our protection is from £50 up to £1 million. So that's about $65 up to $1.3 million. And the protection is in case of guest damages and liabilities. And guest damages includes everything really. So it's accidental damage, case they spill a glass of wine, malicious damage, which is them having a party, deliberate damage, which we class as like smoking, and you put it in the house rules that that's not allowed. And we also include theft by the guest, and the instances where they leave the front door open and somebody gets in. That's all the guest that's negligent. And most importantly, the liability aspect, which I think all property managers are really interested in and really want to make sure that nothing happens to that guest whilst in the property. So yeah, that protection does have a small threshold, like I said, the £50 or $65, but the majority of our claims are over that, and they will be, because nobody wants to claim for those small things. They're going to be the bigger things. So yeah, that protection is in place once we verified a guest. And then the third level of Superhog is our issue resolution. So what we will do is if an instance has happened, we will ask you to provide information to us. The kind of things that we would ask for are evidence, like photos before and after a stay. If it's a broken object, we would ask you for a picture of that. You may have spoken to the guests throughout their booking, and they might have said to you, oh, everything's fine with the property, and it wasn't. That's all adds as evidence towards what we would deem to be a successful claim. And we then look to obviously pay you out as a property manager, and you can forward that onto your host, or we can pay them directly, whatever's best for you. Basically, we work with you. So yeah, so that's that part of the claims that we do. Also, part of the claims claims process is that we would ask the guest to become to contribute to their loss. This doesn't impact on the claim whatsoever, but what we're also trying to do with Superhog is make guests accountable for their actions in our industry, and that doesn't mean that they can go around causing damage and not be accountable for it. So we do ask them to contribute. Of course, not every guest is going to contribute, because they won't. But some of them do. We've had about 30% of our guests actually contribute to the loss. And the reason that we kind of get around that is that we say to them, look, you haven't acted in a good way. We are going to put you on our Superhog watch list. And that may mean that another one of our clients that we've got on board takes a booking from this person, from this guest, and we say to them, we know about this guest, they didn't act in a great way last time, we're not happy to put our protection in place, and therefore that's stopping that guest from going from platform to platform and property manager to property manager to create damage. So that's what we're also doing. So Superhog's not just insurance, it's embedded insurance. Of course, the protection's there in case something goes wrong, but what's most important for us is knowing who our guest is before they enter the property, because it's just adding to a benefit to you as a management company. You'll probably also notice within the amount that we're covering is that you don't need to take deposits anymore if you don't want to. So we know that this is a huge burden on property managers currently, that they have to take deposits. They have to do this, pre-auth on cards or refunding money, and it can become a bit of a pain. So by having Superhog, it means you don't have to take that deposit anymore, because we're protecting from £50 up. And it also means that you may get more bookings come through to you because your property doesn't have a deposit, whereas the one down the road that they were looking at with another property manager is asking for a deposit. So it can increase conversion in that respect. Superhog works with all platform bookings, so it doesn't matter where it's coming from, we can work with. And what's key about our product is that we have a number of integrations with PMSs and channel managers that we work with, which means that we can pull the data in really easily from your bookings, because I know that a lot of property managers want to be hands off. They don't want to have to do anything manual. So by us pulling in the data, from the PMS means that we can send our verification links really easily to a guest, and we can also send the verification links by text as well as email, because we want to hit them as much as we can in regards to the verifications. So we've got those options as well, and we also follow up with chasers as well to them. So we will chase them about 7 days before, 3 days before, on the day, to make sure that they're actually following up with this. So it's very hands off. What will happen with Superhog is that you'll get an account and a dashboard which will have the bookings in and the listings in, and you'll be able to get information on who's verified and who hasn't. And that information is also passed via email to you as well. So you don't have to log in. You do get those notifications, but they are all there for you to be able to see and for it to work. So yeah, that's it. I'm just gonna put my other bits of the slide. I don't want to forget the other bits on there. So this really explains, how it works with the bookings coming in, and the property management system works with our Superhog API, and the things that we're checking here in regards to our toolkit. And yeah, so in regards to our costings, we are a lot different than a conventional insurance product. The reason why is because we're doing this preventative level of checking a guest before they're staying, and we really do feel that limits the risk to everybody. So we're really competitive in our costs, and that means that you can then monetize that, because where Superhog sits as a guarantee to its hosts and owners, it means that you can offset these costs, whereas a conventional insurance product, you can't do that. You have to be regulated, and obviously we can't do that. You can't have that as a property manager everywhere. What's really important is that our product is global. It doesn't just work in the UK, even though we're a UK-based company. Like I said, Superhog sits as a guarantee to its members, so we can work worldwide. We currently have partners in the US, South Africa, Europe, and the UK, and we're growing quite rapidly at the moment regarding that. I think obviously everyone's really thinking about trust and safety and damage within our industry at the moment, especially going into the summer, and the fact that everything's opened up again. I know that here, definitely in the UK, our coastal and rural bookings are really high, which is really positive, and a lot of our UK customers are very happy. So yeah, a couple of maybe FAQs that I've just got that people ask me. So people generally ask, how long is the customer journey? Because they're really interested in the fact that they don't want it to be too long for their guests to complete. The journey is about 3 minutes long, but then registering and completing their ID. We do only ask the lead guests to verify because they're accountable for the booking. If we were asking, every single guest on that booking to verify, they probably wouldn't do it. And that wouldn't be great for anyone. So we just ask the lead guest, and it takes a couple of minutes just to process. Repeat guests. People have asked us about repeat guests. Do they have to verify every time? No, they don't. Once we know who someone is and the booking information is therefore coming through to us the same as we already know, we'll recognize that guest as a verified guest, and that information will obviously automatically update on the partner's profile, so they don't need to worry about that. Also, corporate bookings is another thing people ask us about. They are fine for us to verify. We're happy to verify the person that books, because again, they are the ones that are accountable for the booking. But there's also options if you want to verify the actual guest that's staying, to pass that information onto the guest, and they can verify, and we can connect that on our system. So So yeah, that's there's a couple of questions I think there. I've gone through claims. So yeah, I think that's everything, I think, Heather.
Yeah, thanks, Hannah. No, I do have a few more questions for you. This is your
Yeah,
last
go
slide,
on.
right? So we can leave this
Yeah,
up.
yeah, this is just all our lovely faces.
This is great. So because this is kind of an alternative to insurance, though ultimately I would still need insurance if, to cover, say, fire in the home, right? Or something that is unrelated to a guest.
Yeah, yeah,
Um, so I guess it's not necessarily replacing insurance that I have, but maybe I can think about my insurance differently knowing I have this. So then,
yeah.
um, knowing I would still need to pay for insurance, what is the cost? What is your cost model?
Yeah, so our cost model currently for 2021, we have no fixed costs. We only are charging per booking. So I'll do that in pounds and dollars if that helps. So it's £2.50 per booking up to 14 days, or $3.50 per booking up to 14 days. Any booking that's longer than 14 days will charge an extra £2.50 per week, or $3.50 per week. That's for the 2021. In 2022, we do incorporate a per listing charge, so per property charge, as having a membership, and that's about £25 a year, or $35 per property annually. And then obviously the booking cost that I've just said to you. So
Can I try to repeat that back a little bit, I
yeah,
guess?
sorry, it could be complicated. I'm happy to send this over to anyone that needs it as well afterwards.
Yeah,
But yeah,
and we could certainly, if you have something to send that lays out costs, we can post that in the community
yeah,
for members as follow-up.
yeah,
But I just wanted to be clear. So if for every booking I'm set up with you, and for every booking I'm paying about $3 or $4, most of
yeah,
our audience is US, so I'll stay in the USD.
yes,
Um, then if I get a claim, say I start working with you and I've got 10 bookings, I've paid my $3, $4 per booking. If I
yeah.
have a claim, is that covered because I've been paying this per booking fee?
Yeah,
Or is
so
there
it's still
something? Okay.
so it's still protected. Yeah, the reason we can give you these costs, which you might think, oh god, that's not a lot, is because the risk of damage is so much less to us. We are paying out less on damages because of this preventative tool that we've got, because we're ID checking guests. So even though you're not paying so much, it's still covering what we've got. Obviously we've got other partners as well that we've got doing this, but yes, it's that's all we're charging you for, that protection.
So it sounds like I'd have protection with my insurance, but this would be extra protection, like damage claim.
Yeah, so generally you would need underlying insurance for the property for things like you said, like fire, things that aren't attributable to a guest.
Mhm.
So just normal risks. So when the guest isn't in there, or I don't know, there's a leak in the roof and it's nothing to do with the guest, you would claim on your underlying buildings and contents insurance. Ours is what you would class as a top up, I would guess. That's what you would
Mm.
say for the risks of guests being in there, because generally most people's underlying buildings and contents doesn't have this part of
Right.
the insurance. It doesn't extend to guests. A lot of them restrict it. Some obviously properties do, some don't. But that's the reason why kind of our company was formed in the first place, is because there was this need that everyone thought they had what cover they needed, and they didn't, because they found out the hard way, right? Because they had a claim, they had an incident, and they found out that home sharing is that risky. A lot of insurers just don't like it because there's too many people going in properties. It's hard to decipher, and that's kind of why we're here,
So
really.
I do think what is also really interesting is this security check that you mentioned takes 3 minutes for the guest to complete.
Yeah,
Super easy. What happens when there's a negative outcome to that check, something that is flagged? How does
yeah,
that work out to maybe cancel or
yeah.
tell the
So I mean,
guest?
our process isn't like obviously compulsory for the guest, but we're saying it's part of your process that when you have a booking, you get them verified by us. So there's going to be instances where people don't do it at all. For us, that's a big red flag, because they don't even attempt to come onto our website. Why are they not doing that? Okay, it's part of your process as a property manager. So we would suggest, yes, that you do cancel that booking, but it's up to you. We're just saying to you, we can't put protection in place because we don't know who that person is, and therefore we don't want to take that risk on. It's the same for someone that tries to verify as somebody else or isn't who they say they are when they try and verify, which doesn't happen that many times because most people just don't bother doing it at all, right? But those people also will flag to say to you, this person isn't who they say they are because they've tried to ID and they aren't. It's not them. It's a big red flag to you, because at the end of the day, you're, regardless of whether we're going to pick up the pieces for general claims, like it's a burden on you, isn't it? The fact that you will have this thing going on in the background after someone stayed.
It sounds like you're saying those are the two scenarios that are most likely, is they don't complete, or after completing you're flagged that they're not who they say they are. And then it's really up to me as the host owner to decide what to do.
Yeah, absolutely. It's our product isn't to get you to cancel bookings. That's not what we're here for. It's to protect the properties and you in case something happens. And obviously, if someone genuine stays, we've got the liability aspect as well. It's just a warning sign to us to say you probably shouldn't let this person in.
Now, is it all right if I jump in with
Yes,
a follow-up question, I guess? So if they don't complete but they end up staying anyway, I'm not able to cancel it, I choose not to, and then there's damage, would you still honor that claim? Is there something that's a dependency on the check?
Well, yeah, so we won't pay out for anything that isn't verified. If they have verified and something happens, then of course, regardless of what's happened, i.e. if they have had a party, which is probably less likely, and we haven't had one to date, by the way, since Superhog started, we haven't had one of those party bookings, because these are genuine people that are verifying. They're the ones that just have the odd accident. They spilled a glass of wine. And that's really positive. That's what we're trying to create, is more people that are accountable. I've got a few partners that have actually said to me that since they've started working with Superhog, they've just noticed a complete reduction in any type of damage, any small little bits of claims, any losses, because we're ID checking them and they're put off from doing anything. Which is really, really positive. Like, that's what we're trying to do, is create a trusted, community of trusted host guests.
Do you happen to have a stat on that, for the, X amount of people who don't complete it, so many of them will just cancel the reservation on their own because they realize.
Yeah, actually, you're right, actually. Yeah. So we do see that. So I mean, I've got quite good relationships with some of our partners, and we do just talk on WhatsApp and stuff. And some of them will say, I'm so glad that I had this in place, because this guy, I had a funny feeling about him anyway, and he ended up cancelling. So yeah, that's what generally happens. They'll cancel the booking.
You don't have to even do anything. They just get scared.
You don't even have to do anything. Yeah. Exactly.
Yeah. Well, that was really helpful. I know we're a little over time.
Oh, wait, I didn't know what the time is, but thank you so much.
It was so great. I didn't see any questions from the audience, but obviously we'll continue to share this demo and take questions in our member community and continue the conversation. I learned a ton, Hannah, today. This was awesome. And thank you for your partnership with Astrho. We'll continue to stay in touch and share more about your product.
Great, thanks so much for having me. Thanks, take care, bye.
Rest of the evening. Okay, bye now.